my name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today I am doing the reader profile tag. I was tagged to do this by Courtney Reads a Lot, and so I will link her channel and her tag video below. So I've got the questions written out in my trusty notebook, and I've gone through them and picked out some books, so most of them I have planned answers. We'll see what happens as I go through. Okay, number one. What makes a good book? Characters. I have to like the characters or be interested in the characters and rooting for them, wanting to see things go good, well for them. But then I also like a good suspense. It moves quickly, keeps me invested the whole way through, and continuity. I do not like jumping around in time. I like kind of, we go from this day to this day to this day or a couple days. Yes, please don't go back and forth. However, I do have two books I'm going to talk about that are dual timeline. And one of them is the same characters, just we have them in one timeline and then we go back just a few months prior. So that I could handle because the way it was told, but normally I do not like just jumping a lot. Okay, number two. What are you currently reading? Well, today at work, last night, I just finished reading Love on the Mend by Karen Whitmire. This was a novella I had from the library, so I just finished it last night. Then today, while I was at work, I finished listening to the audiobook of Vet in a Spin by James Herriot. Then it was like, okay, I don't have a book on the go. I don't have an audiobook on the go. So I started listening to Dawn's Light by Terry Blackstock, and this will be the one that I'm going to read as well, because it's nice when I have both. So I started listening to it, and now that it's the weekend, I can sit and read. So this is what I'm going to be reading, and this is book 4 of the Restoration series, and already it has started with what is going on? And it's picking up with a family that we know from books 1 to 3, and it continues, but I am so invested already. Okay, question number 3. What is the last book you did not finish and why? Well, I do not DNF very often. Has to be something really oh, I don't like this, I'm not going to read it. The last book I DNF'd was last year, and that was The Associate by John Grisham. And it just started mentioning some things that just kind of made me uncomfortable, the way it was being described, and some of the stuff that was happening, and it was no. So I put it down, and that was the last book. It's actually the only book I DNF'd last year. As I said, I don't DNF very often. I would have DNF'd a book this year already, just because, again, it was jumping so much in time, and I was I don't know where we are. It was just, it was so mixed up. But I will talk about that. I read that this month. But I did finish it for a reason. And I will talk about that when I do my February wrap-up. So I'm going to leave you a little hanging. Okay, number 4. What obscure book do you wish other people would read? Okay, I'm going to pick a series. I could just say book 1 of the series, but I'm going to pick the whole series. And I was what makes an obscure book? So I decided an obscure book is one that hasn't been read by very many people, according to Goodreads. I don't know if that's really accurate or not, but that's what I'm going to do. So the book number 1 is Someplace Familiar by Teresa Tysinger. So the series is the Laurel Cove Romance. This is a Christian fiction series, and it's just such a sweet series. It is 4 books. So we have Someplace Familiar, Suddenly Forever, Someone Found, and Say It's for Good. Each book is completely separate romance. The characters, we haven't met them before. However, it is set in the same community. So characters we did meet in book 1 do make appearances as you move throughout the series. which I love the community feel. But when I looked this up on Goodreads, book number 1 has 187 ratings. Book number 2 is only 91. And then we get to book number 4 and there's only 46. That makes me sad because I love this series. I read book 1 and book 2, and then I pre-ordered book 3 and 4 because I loved this series so much. And so, yeah, it is a contemporary romance, but it's like with dealing with hurt. And one of them deals with grief and moving past grief, like moving on from it, not living completely in it. Book number 1 is she's come to town for a fresh start. She has a broken heart and forgotten dreams. So on a whim, she comes to claim her grandmother's old home, and she runs into somebody and a friendship starts and romance starts. And I loved this series. So yes, this is one that I'm going to recommend. Okay, then number 5. What is the longest book you've read? The first book that came to my mind, and I read this years ago, like 2011 is what my Goodreads says, and that is Coming Home by Rosamond Pitcher. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And it's not a book I would really recommend. I wouldn't say it's a clean book. From what I remember about it, I think there's some stuff that happens in it. But it is 977 pages, the version I had. Other than that, the only ones that come up as the longest books on my Goodreads when I pull page count is novella collections, which is kind of funny because I don't read a lot of novellas, but they're all novella collections, the top 5 of them. Now, one of them is not a novella collection. I read the complete Anne of Green Gables series Kindle version, so it was all 8 books in one for the Kindle. So, I mean, that one is a large one as well, but technically that's not a large book because it's really 8 books in one. Same with the Kindle collections. So, yeah, we're going with the Rosamond Pitcher book. Okay, number 6. If you could have a dinner party with 5 fictional characters, who would they be? Okay, well, I'm going with a girls' party, apparently. That's just what happened when I started pulling books of who I would invite. And I immediately thought the 3 girls from the Supper Club series. So this is book 1, The Saturday Night Supper Club by Carla Lorando. So we have Rachel, Melody, and somebody. Who's the other girl? This one is Rachel's book. Oh, Annalyn. Why could I not remember her name? So I just loved the friendship of these 3 girls. And so I thought that would be really cool to hang out with them. So those are 3. And then we're going with wisdom of an older lady. So we're going with Pearl from The Edge of Belonging by Amanda Cox. She is a widow of a pastor, and she just is filled with so much wisdom and guidance for the younger people that she interacts with. And such a caring heart. And then we decided, well, let's add somebody who will not let the party be completely quiet and will speak, and that is Anne from Anne of Green Gables. Right? She's gonna keep us all entertained at some point or another. So these are the 5 ladies. What did I do with the other book? These are the 5 ladies that I'm going to invite. Okay, then number 7. List 5 books that you would want to have with you if you were stranded on a deserted island. Well, my thought was, I only had 5 books and I'm on a deserted island. I want books that I could read over and over and over again. Which meant I probably didn't really want suspense books. I wanted warm, good feeling books, I think, is probably what I'll be looking for. However, I did pull one suspense book because I can't not have any. And that is In Too Deep by Lynn H. Blackburn. This is book number 2 of the Dive Team Investigations series. And in this is my favorite couple of the series. I just loved it. And because I have read the whole series twice through, I could read just book 2. I'd be fine with it because the characters carry over throughout the series, but the mystery that's going on and the case they're dealing with does not. So, Adam and Sabrina, In Too Deep by Lynn H. Blackburn. Then, I do not have physical copies of these two, and that is It Had to Be You by Susan May Warren. This is Jace and Eden's story from the Christensen family. Again, this is book 2 of a series. I have a thing about book 2. And I just loved the way they interacted, and it was so entertaining. And yeah, I read this book 3 times, I think is what my Goodreads says. Yeah, I just love these characters. And then another book that I do not own is The Wedding Chapel by Rachel Hawk. This one is told from 2 perspectives and a dual timeline. We have kind of in the past where we're reliving the old man from when he was younger and kind of his romance relationship. Then in the present day timeline, we have a young, recently married couple who are just dealing with newly married. And so the romance there and kind of the struggles of a new relationship or different type of relationship. And then we meet the Jimmy, I think it's Jimmy, the older man, and we find out his story. So that's when it goes back in time. I love this book again, and it's one I've read multiple times. And then we're keeping on the multiple time line. And the next book is No Ocean Too Wide by Carrie Taransky. This one is a historical set in the mid-1900s. When is it actually set? Does it say? Yeah, early 1900s, 1909. So it starts off in London, England, and then over the course of the series, the kids travel to Canada, and then we're following them within Canada. And this opened taught me about a point in history that I didn't really know anything about, and I just grew to enjoy these characters and care for them. And this is not a heavy romance at all. There's a little bit, but that is not the focus of the book. It is more the family dynamics. We've got the older sister trying to find her younger siblings after they get separated due to a death in the family. And again, I've read it multiple times, and I could read it multiple times. This is book 1 of a duology, so the story does not completely wrap up in this book because book 2 picks up with another sibling. But yeah. And then the last book is a romance, a historical romance, and that is More Than Words Can Say by Karen Whitmire. Again, this is book 2 of the Patchwork Family series. But it does not need to be read with the other one. It's better if you do, because then you get to know more of Zach's story. But you can go into this just meeting Zach and getting to know. So we've got Abigail, who has inherited her father's bakery, but the town people said that a woman's name cannot be on the deed, so she needs to find a husband or sign over the deed. Well, she seeks out a few people, and Zach ends up being the guy, and they go into a marriage of convenience that, in my favorite opinion, becomes a wonderful romance, and they realize feelings. And yeah, I love this. Again, I've read it multiple times. Okay, number 8. What is one book that you could not put down? The book I immediately thought of was Walking on Hidden Wings by Rachel Scott McDaniel. I read this at the end of December, and I did not want to put it down. I remember each time I needed to put it down, it was like, oh, but can I, one more chapter? No, like, how much more? Can I? I was so invested in the story, and it does not help that, well, I mean, it helped getting me invested. Every chapter ends with some sort of reveal that happens or some sort of cliffhanger, and it's like, okay, I need to keep reading to find out. Like, I was so invested in this book. I loved it. Okay, number 9, list 5 books or authors that you will never read. Okay, the one that immediately came to my mind is Fourth Wing, or that series. I don't even know who the author is off the top of my head. I've seen it talked about so much, but I could not name the author. The other ones that I will not be reading is Stephen King. I do not read horror, and just the thought of that, no thank you. So 3, 4. I don't know if I want to say I will not ever. I have no interest in, and this is going to be maybe a little bit controversial, but I have absolutely no interest in reading Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. No. And I am not a fantasy person at all. I have never been. Like, yeah. I remember my dad and my brother watching Star Trek growing up. Like Star Trek The Next Generation, the original, Deep Space Nine, I think it's called, Voyager, I don't know. I remember watching them, like, see them on, and I, like, okay, whatever. But I never understood what was going on. Like, a little bit, I'm like, okay, that character's this person, that, but to, like, sit down and watch, I'm like, yeah, not my thing. Anything that is not set in our real world, I just don't think I can do. And, yeah. Okay, number 10. If you were to write a book, what would it be about? I'm not going to write a book. If I was ever going to write a book, which I am not going to, it would be a to-do book. Like a how-to, whatever. And it would be probably, well, I don't know, because I'm not totally efficient in it, like an advanced thing, but it'd be like something, how to use Excel, or how to create a spreadsheet and do this, but even that, there's things I learn every single day on it that I'm like, oh, that's cool, I can do this. So yeah, but I do not have the imagination to write a book. And I just don't have the drive to sit down and put a bunch of words together to create a book. Yeah, that's not my thing. Okay, so that is the reader profile tag. I am not going to officially tag anybody for this video, but if you are watching and you need a tag video to do, you can say that I tagged you, because I'm saying right now, okay, you're tagged. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I hope you've learned a little bit more about me, even if some of it's a little controversial. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.